Hi guys! Welcome back to part 2 of this rant where we discuss the things all horse people know but don't really talk about. Oh, and by the way, I'm holding this whip because I never know what to do with my hands while standing here, so just never mind me. If you missed part 1, then I highly recommend you check it out because we cover some really awesome topics with lots of cool info you might have never heard of before. Now I know that most of you watching this video have probably seen part 1, but just in case you haven't, I'll show you my disclaimer quickly. Whatever you do with your horse is your decision only. I'm not here to judge anyone, I'm just talking from a perspective of a scientist/nerd who has the best interest of horses in mind. And if there's even a slight chance that my speech will make a positive influence, then I have to absolutely go for it. So without further ado, let's get down to our first taboo stating, there's no such thing as a comfortable bit. Everybody knows that, deep down. I mean, whenever I discuss bits and bridles with a non-horsey person, their reaction was always the same. Doesn't that hurt the horse? Yes, it does! Oh, I wish I could have given everyone such a straight answer, but it's only been a few years since I started thinking for myself, and before that, I worshipped all riding instructors and trainers like gods and never questioned anything they were saying. So just to demonstrate how much attention this topic is getting in the equine industry, here's an answer I've written as a new Quora user on what's the easiest bit on the horse's mouth that's gone semi-viral with over 28,000 views and 480 uploads. So anyway, how do we know that bits are actually hurting horses? It's not like they often show any signs of pain or even discomfort. And why would they? Not long ago, they were exposed to the cruelty of nature with no one to rely on for protection. Sticking together gave them a fighting chance, but the predators were always on the lookout to hunt down the weak, injured, or old individuals. So horses evolved to hide their pain and suffer in silence because that was the cost of survival. Which is some deep shit, I know. It's a good thing to keep in mind that whenever a horse does show signs of pain, it's probably serious and requires immediate attention. In order to find out if bits are indeed causing discomfort for the horse, we have to pay attention to more subtle signals and examine a large number of horses over a long period of time. Which is exactly what many scientists have already been doing for decades. I have read many of these studies over my time at university, and one that really stood out for me was a 2008 study conducted in Sweden. The researchers have examined two groups of horses, one ridden and one non-ridden. And what they found is that ridden horses were much more likely to have both large and acute ulcers in the mouth. In fact, they established that oral ulcers are a relatively common equine disorder worldwide and is the most common cause of oral pain in horses. If you know a thing or two about dressage, you're probably aware that salivation and gentle mouthing of the bit are favored by the judges, as well as continuous contact with the bit in a closed mouth. I don't know who came up with this, but there is zero scientific evidence that chewing the bit is a sign of acceptance. It's quite the opposite, actually. In research, chewing the bit has been associated with the horse's attempt to release pressure in the mouth by trying to reposition the bit, which makes a hell of a lot more sense to me. There is a slightly old but brilliant study done by Clayton in 1985 that observed nearly continuous mouth movement in horses ridden with a particularly severe bit, the W snaffle. This vile apparatus doesn't allow the horse to temporarily release pressure, so in this case, mouthing the bit was definitely an expression of discomfort, to put it mildly. If you're still not convinced, there are also papers proving that licking and chewing occurs when the horse's sympathetic nervous system is activated in response to confusion and stress. But don't take my word for it, I'll put all the links in the description box below. All of the studies, and there are many of them, that looked at the effect of bits in the horse's mouth agree on one thing. They are a major source of discomfort for the horse. Other than ulcers, they can trigger behaviors like head shaking, teeth grinding, tongue lolling, flapping of the lips, or opening of the mouth. Trust me, I could go on and on and on, but then we would be here all day and we still have 3 topics to cover. So as you can see, there is plenty of scientific evidence to support that bits are damaging to your horse's mouth. But they have been used for thousands of years, and they do make horse riding a somewhat safer activity as we have more control over the horse. Still, it warms my heart to see that more and more people are switching to bitless riding, and not just for medical reasons, but because it makes both horse and rider happier. There's literally nothing that can't be done without a bit, from backing a youngster to advanced dressage, cross-country, or western riding. Of course, it goes without saying that you will need to establish trust and good communication with your horse before committing to bitless riding, as it can all go wrong very easily. I just, wanted to plant this idea in your head and give you a different perspective so you can reevaluate what's best for your horse. But as I said before, your horse, your call. And with that, we can now move on to our next discussion. It's a tricky one and it takes balls to admit to it, so it absolutely deserves a place on the list. It's never the horse, it's you. Let me explain what I mean by that. Horses are like children. They can't lie, they have a short attention span, and they are always innocent. There's a saying that a horse is only as good as its rider. Well, I would modify this to as good as its trainer, but you get the gist. Whenever something goes wrong with a horse, we are so quick to blame it on that stupid animal, but all the poor fellow is doing is giving you the best response based on what you taught him. Let me give you an example. So this one afternoon, me and my partner were shooting some videos of my horse Dream, who is a gelding, 1.5 years old, quite calm usually, but still inexperienced. On this footage, I'm just walking him up to the camera with a rope around his neck. We've done this a few times before, no problem. Then I hand him over to Ollie, who he knows well as a Candyman. And then boom! He's triggered like, whoa! My first reaction was like, what the hell was that? That's not like him at all! And then I looked around thinking maybe he saw something that spooked him, but everything was the exact same as before. And then I realized it was the halter. See how it swings towards him right before he spooked? Now, that in itself wouldn't be enough to cause this reaction, but right the day before that, I sent him around in canter on that same field using that same rope with the halter attached. As that was his first time doing canter work, he was a bit stressed out and became wary of his old lead rope and halter, which is completely my fault. Shouldn't have done it, I should have used his lunge whip instead. But it fully explains why he reacted the only way he could have and knew best in that situation, which was to get away from the negative stimuli in front of him. Here's another classic example. Horse runs away on the field from the owner, in this case me. What happened there? Well, he saw his bodies in the distance and thought, screw it, I'm out of here. Now, surely that was naughty of him, wasn't it? The answer is no. That video was made at the end of our long walk deep in the forest where he couldn't see or hear any other horse. Besides, I've only had him for 3 weeks at that point, which is not enough time to teach him manners and convince him that sticking with me is always his best option. Besides, he was really excitable to start with. My point is, no matter what happens, horses are never to blame. Of course, you may not always find the answer to why your horse reacted the way he did. It may be that something happened in the past, even before you owned him, and that memory resurfaced in that particular situation. This is actually one of the reasons why I bought such a young horse. This way, I know what has been done with him, and I can make sure he gets the correct training. Even though things might still happen that I don't know about, as I can't always be out on the field with him, but this is as perfect as it gets. Now, in order to help you better understand why horses behave the way they do, I want to briefly talk about the equine brain. Horses are intelligent animals with excellent memory. This is because they lack the prefrontal cortex that would allow them to revisit and dwell on their memories like we do. Without the prefrontal cortex, their memories remain intact, while ours get modified over time as we think about them over and over again. The frontal lobe of horses is also proportionately smaller than ours. This is the area responsible for abstract thinking and reasoning and, amongst many other things, the ability to lie or deceive someone else. So when people say things like, oh, my horse is pretending to be lame by limping so he doesn't have to work or something similar, that is absolute BS. Horses literally lack the part of the brain that is responsible for lying. Okay, before I get too carried away, I'm gonna end this discussion right here. What I want you to take away from this is that horses do everything for a reason. So the next time your horse does something daft or out of the blue, just try to think with his head and figure out what might have caused the behavior. Doing this will drastically improve your relationship and communication in the long run, so it's absolutely worth it. Next, we're going to briefly talk about another widespread issue in the equestrian world, which is the objectifying of horses. Now, this is a little bit like coronavirus. It's everywhere, and still it's nowhere. So what does the word actually mean? Well, the textbook definition is to degrade someone to the status of a mere object. People tend to throw it around a lot, especially with women, in which case the meaning is crystal clear. But what about animals? Where do you draw the line? It's not so easy then, is it? It's not like horses know that they are being objectified, but it still affects their welfare in so many ways. Without question, the number one industry to which the issue applies the most is horse racing. With a cash turnover of several $100 billion each year, it is definitely the most lucrative of all equine industries. In horse racing, the stakes are high. The pressure from bettors, the media, and public is also high. Livelihoods are made or lost depending on a single horse. And in these circumstances, there is no room for horses to be horses. Starting from birth, racehorses are kept in a controlled environment. They are broken in before the age of 2, years before the skeleton and body is fully mature. They undergo high-intensity training and are raced until exertion. If they do extremely well, they might be retired early and put into breeding. The rest? They keep on racing until they can, and then they go down the drain. I only just touched the tip of the iceberg about what goes on in the racing industry, and it's not the purpose of this video to dig any deeper. I just wanted to give you the most extreme example of what objectifying horses means, but similar things go on in other disciplines too, especially harness racing and show jumping, just a bit less intensely. Unfortunately, this is the side effect of keeping horses for profit. And as long as we want horses to be part of our daily lives, there's nothing we can do about it. But does it end there? Sadly, no. You would have to be a very extreme equestrian to say that you've never thought of horses as an object before. Because to some extent, everyone has. Even I did. For the few months I was competing for, all I cared about was training and winning, and then telling everyone about it. I was stuck into this weekly routine, and not once did I stop and think about how the horse feels about it. Nor did I care that there was zero bonding going on between me and the horses I rode. They were just a means of boosting my ego. Anyway, those were dark times for me, and luckily I realized that soon enough. Objectifying horses can take many forms. It can be so subtle, you won't even notice it, but it's there. And nobody talks about it because nobody wants to be the bad guy. But it's never too late to turn around. And if you just stick to this one rule, you have already done the first step towards making this world a better place for horses. And it's this. Let horses be horses. As much as you can. Make their homes as natural as possible, with plenty of turnout and contact with other horses. When handling and training them, give them room to express their personality and opinion. Give them choices whenever it's safe to do so. Don't just put them in a frame with a set way to react to everything. Make them your partner, and you'll see they will want to work with you. Finally, we have arrived to our 7th and final taboo. We are going to talk about equestrian arrogance. Horse people are a special breed. Like, we even have an entire meme library dedicated to us. It's because our lives revolve around these incredible beasts who we care for as our own kind. When I was younger, I thought that if someone liked horses, they must be good people. And I also thought that all horse people must naturally get along, as we all love the same thing. What I didn't realize is that the way we love horses is different for everybody. Very different. So much so that we can't even agree on basic things like feeding, blanketing, shoeing, clipping, bandaging, what bedding or dewormer to use, or just what's best for the animals in general. And I'm not talking about the different needs of each horse. I'm talking about people having different ideas about the same horse, and everyone thinking that their way is the best. Our journey with horses starts with that one riding instructor. This could be a parent or a complete stranger, but for us they will seem like the most knowledgeable equestrian ever lived. And over the years we move on to other trainers and riding schools as our skills get better and better. Those places will shape the way we think about horses and also influence what side we choose when it comes to things like bits versus bitless, shoeing versus barefoot, or traditional versus scientific training techniques. We think that we've got it all figured out, that we have all the answers. We think that our way is the one and only, and we tell everyone about it. And that's when we need to stop and wait a minute. I'm tired. Because here's the thing, nobody has all the answers. We all have some of the answers. And that's why we need to stay humble and learn from each other instead of being at each other's throats. Horses are mysterious animals. There's so much we don't know about them, and because of that, we can never stop learning. And that's kind of the beauty of it, isn't it? It's like your favorite Netflix series that's always coming out with new seasons. So don't be too quick to judge others when they do things differently or give you suggestions. Instead, open your mind to what they can add to your knowledge. And who knows, it might change your life forever. It happened to me before. And with that, we've finally come to the end of this rant. It's been an emotional rollercoaster for sure. I hope that it's been interesting for you and that I've been able to shed some new light on things. Because we've covered a lot of ground in the last 2 videos, I would just like to summarize the main points and key takeaways from the 7 taboos. Always remember and respect that horses were never meant to carry us. So it's your responsibility to do everything you can to make it easier for them to do so. Ride a horse appropriate for your height and size, and make sure you don't overload them beyond 20% of their body weight. Go out of your way to create a natural and stress-free environment for your horse by turning him out with other horses. Remember that bits will always cause some level of discomfort for your horse. Try riding bitless if you can. Your horse will thank you for it. Horses are always innocent. If they misbehave, you need to look back in training and search for what went wrong instead of blaming it all on the horse. Keep in mind that horses are intelligent, sensitive creatures with personalities and treat them accordingly. And finally, stay humble and always be open to learn from others. That's the only way we can move forward. If you stuck with me till the end of this video, then congratulations. You've earned my deep admiration. But seriously, thank you. I really hope that you found this two-part video thought-provoking, as that was the #1 goal. I have loads of ideas for future videos, mostly about training tips infused with equine science and other cool stuff as well. So if you want to get notified for those videos, then make sure you subscribe and feel free to like and comment below this video as well. So until next time, make sure you ride smart.